NBC News drops. Bombshell on Paul Kagame, Rwanda's secret war exposed.
NBC News exclusively obtained 3 years of confidential intelligence reports and surveillance footage. They were given to us by military contractors hired to provide intelligence for Congolese forces. Using additional incident reports from the Rwanda Defense Forces, or RDF, satellite imagery, and interviews with combatants, we were able to piece together an account of Rwanda's secret war. Along the way, there have been cracks in Rwanda's covert war. In May 2022, Congolese forces claimed to have captured 2 Rwandan soldiers on Congolese soil. Rwanda denied this, claiming the soldiers were kidnapped across the border.
A shocking NBC News investigation led by veteran journalist Mikola Wrong has finally exposed the secret war in eastern Congo waged by Paul Kagame. From drone footage and satellite images to leaked military documents and survivor testimonies, the evidence is damning. Rwanda's RDF troops have invaded, disguised themselves as M23 rebels, committed atrocities and buried their dead in silence. Yet as the world negotiates peace and minerals, the Congolese people are being sacrificed. In this video, we dissect the entire operation, praise Congo's resistance under President Tshisekedi and the FARDC, and expose the hypocrisy of those still treating Kagame as a peace broker while he wreaks havoc across borders. The veil has finally been lifted on one of the most egregious and well-hidden military operations in recent African history. Thanks to the meticulous investigation by NBC News and the fearless reporting of Mikola Wrong, we now have irrefutable evidence that Rwanda, under the leadership of Paul Kagame, has been waging a clandestine war in eastern Congo, one that has killed thousands, displaced millions, and exposed the utter failure of the international community to uphold justice. Since 2021, the Democratic Republic of Congo has been bleeding. But what the world saw, an upsurge in violence blamed on the so-called M23 rebel group, was just the surface of a much deeper and more sinister operation. According to the NBC News report published on June 6, 2025, and authored by Mikola Wrong, Rwanda's military, known as the RDF, has not only armed and trained M23, but has also sent thousands of its soldiers across the border, disguised them in rebel uniforms and used sophisticated weaponry to claim Congolese territory. This is not conjecture. This is not political propaganda. This is the conclusion drawn from leaked confidential reports, hours of drone footage, satellite imagery, and interviews with both Congolese and Rwandan military insiders. These findings render Kagame's denials obsolete. They also expose his regime's duplicity, waging war behind closed doors while preaching peace in public. President Felix Tshisekedi of the DRC has long sounded the alarm, warning that Rwanda's aggression was not merely rhetorical, but operational. Under his leadership, the FARDC and allied patriotic forces known as Wazalendo have faced unimaginable odds, defending their country against one of Africa's most disciplined and deceptive militaries. Yet Tshisekedi has continued to pursue diplomacy, showing restraint even as Rwanda committed war crimes on Congolese soil. But diplomacy must never be blind to bad faith. And now the world has proof that Kagame is not negotiating in good faith. He is negotiating while advancing his army in secret. According to NBC News, the war reignited in late 2021 when M23 began attacking FARDC positions along the Congo-Rwanda border. Kagame, as always, claimed innocence, stating that M23 was merely a Congolese movement defending the Tutsi minority. But as bodies piled up, towns fell, and nearly 5 million Congolese were forced to flee, Kagame continued to gaslight the international community. Even in April 2024, during a genocide commemoration event, he asked rhetorically, "Why are we being accused as Rwanda of supporting M23?" The answer is now painfully clear. Because Rwanda is not only supporting M23, it is M23. The investigation reveals that since 2021, Rwanda has established field bases within the Congo. These are not symbolic encroachments. They are military strongholds equipped with guided mortar systems, drones, artillery and supply lines. The RDF has even dug trenches, fortified positions and discreetly removed the bodies of their fallen soldiers to keep the operation invisible. They failed. One of the most damning pieces of evidence is the sudden expansion of Rwanda's Kanombe military cemetery. From 2021 to early 2024, over 900 new graves were added. That's nearly 1,000 young men whose deaths Kagame denies. According to NBC News, these deaths occurred while the RDF operated inside Congo, while the world watched, deceived, or in some cases, complicit. The US role in this unfolding tragedy is particularly troubling. As NBC's report notes, Trump administration officials are currently brokering a so-called peace deal between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, with the promise of access to the Congo's rich mineral wealth. The deal, spearheaded by Masad Boulos, aims to draw US investment to both countries. But what kind of peace can be built on a foundation of lies, war crimes and unacknowledged invasions? Even Jason Stearns, director of the Congo Research Group and respected academic, told NBC that Rwanda is not acting in good faith. Stearns warned that Kagame had invested too heavily in this war to walk away. Indeed, Rwanda's long-term goals include controlling the vast deposits of coltan, gold, lithium, copper and other strategic minerals in eastern Congo. These minerals, vital to the global electronics industry, are the actual prize Kagame is after, not the protection of Tutsis or any other noble-sounding cause. Let's not forget that Kagame's government has long claimed that it only intervenes in Congo to contain the FDLR, a Hutu rebel group based in eastern DRC. But this justification has lost all credibility. NBC obtained internal RDF reports revealing that Rwandan soldiers captured during M23 offensives had been ordered to leave their cell phones behind and strip off any insignia that might reveal their true identity. The goal was deception, not defence. One such lapse in deception occurred in May 2022, when 2 RDF soldiers were captured inside the DRC. Rwanda claimed they had been kidnapped across the border. However, an internal RDF document obtained by NBC confirmed they were apprehended while actively participating in an M23 assault. Kigali's house of cards is collapsing under the weight of truth. More disturbing is the RDF's treatment of its fallen soldiers. According to sources, the RDF command assigns special teams to recover bodies, forbids mourning, and buries soldiers in secret. Families risk punishment if they speak publicly. NBC found 91 TikTok and social media posts quietly mourning RDF deaths in Congo, usually with nothing more than a RIP and a crying emoji. Behind this orchestrated silence lies a population living in fear, where young recruits now see deployment to Congo as a death sentence. Inside Congo, the humanitarian catastrophe deepens daily. NBC reports that over 10,000 rapes were recorded in North and South Kivu in just 2 months, with nearly half of the victims being children. This isn't just a war, it's an annihilation of Congolese society. Displaced persons camps have been flattened, cities looted, civilians summarily executed, and prisoners forcibly disappeared. In May 2025, over 4,000 men and boys were loaded onto trucks and taken to an unknown location, according to the DRC's Interior Ministry. Meanwhile, the Congolese government and army, led by Tshisekedi and backed by resilient FARDC troops, are resisting heroically. With the help of foreign military contractors and Chinese drones, they have struck blows that forced temporary RDF retreats. In March 2023, a coordinated airstrike decimated Rwandan positions in Cachée, leading to a complete withdrawal. Proof that the RDF can be beaten when the DRC has the right tools and leadership, but that victory was short-lived. Later that year, RDF troops returned in greater numbers, up to 5,000 men, and with more sophisticated equipment. According to Congolese military sources, Kagame exploited a US-brokered ceasefire to sneak in Chinese-made anti-missile systems and GPS jammers, effectively neutralising Congo's air superiority. Kagame used peace talks not to de-escalate but to regroup and rearm, and yet the international community continues to treat Rwanda as a partner. The United States, the UK and even the UN remain hesitant to fully call out Rwanda's aggression, preferring neutrality in the face of clear-cut violations of sovereignty and human rights. This silence has emboldened Kagame and demoralised the victims. It is therefore crucial that Congo and President Tshisekedi continue to seek diplomatic solutions, but only while preparing for war. The FARDC must be rebuilt from the inside out, purged of traitors and infiltrators and equipped to defend the nation against future invasions. Rwanda has shown that it understands only strength. Peace without power is surrender. The world must not forget the real faces of this tragedy. It is the Congolese mothers raped and abandoned. The children are born in camps. The families mourn in silence. And yes, even the Rwandan recruits were sent to die in a foreign land by a regime that values minerals more than human lives. Kagame may attempt to deny the NBC report, but the evidence is now burned into the global consciousness. This video is not just a reaction, it's a call to awareness. We thank Michaela Wrong and NBC News for exposing this truth. We stand with the Congolese people. We believe in a sovereign, strong DRC. And we think that history will not forgive the lies, the crimes, or the silence. The shadow war waged by Rwanda in the Democratic Republic of Congo is not simply a military campaign. It is a war of erasure of truth, of borders, of dignity, and the human cost of Kagame's imperial ambitions. But thanks to the tireless investigative work of Michaela Wrong and NBC News, the truth has finally pierced the global veil of indifference. The only question now is, will the world act? The evidence uncovered makes one thing clear. Kagame's Rwanda has crossed the line from regional security stakeholder to full-blown aggressor. And this aggression is not just political or military, it is economic. Rwanda's economy is partly built on the back of stolen Congolese wealth. The minerals that feed the world's smartphones, electric vehicles and laptops are funneled through illegal networks and exported with Rwandan labels. The victims are Congolese communities whose lands are looted and who receive neither compensation nor justice. And yet the very Western powers benefiting from these minerals through tech giants and industrial manufacturers have shielded Kagame for years. The same powers that claim to uphold international law and human rights have for decades prioritised profit and geopolitical stability over truth and justice in the Great Lakes region. NBC's report dismantles the long-running Western narrative of Kagame as a reformist and peacekeeper. The same man who once basked in international praise for rebuilding Rwanda after the 1994 genocide is now exposed as the mastermind of a covert, brutal war in a neighbouring sovereign nation. Kagame's actions are not those of a misunderstood leader. They are the actions of a warlord with state power. His ally in silence has long been Joseph Kabila, the former Congolese president, whose decades-long rule laid the foundation for this crisis. It was under Kabila's watch that Rwanda and Uganda built their networks inside Congo, political, economic and military. It was Kabila who allowed foreign troops to masquerade as Congolese rebels. And it was his silence that enabled the slow death of Congolese sovereignty in the east. In contrast, Tshisekedi's presidency has marked a turning point, an attempt, finally, to clean house, reclaim territory and break the cycle of betrayal. But Tshisekedi's road is treacherous. The FARDC, though increasingly effective, still suffers from the scars of corruption, infiltration and underfunding inherited from past regimes. That's why the support of patriotic defence forces like Wazalendo, ordinary Congolese men and women defending their communities, is so vital. Together with renewed purpose and increasing international awareness, they represent Congo's only path to lasting peace and independence. Yet peace will not come easily. Kagame continues to play a double game. On the one hand, he allows his officials to participate in peace talks and diplomatic photo opportunities. On the other, he floods eastern Congo with thousands of RDF troops, installs Chinese air defence systems, and suppresses dissent within Rwanda. This is a strategy of manipulation, using diplomacy as cover while entrenching military gains on the ground. As NBC's reporting shows, even during ceasefires requested by the United States, Kagame has used the pauses not to de-escalate, but to rearm. The Yitian missile systems and GPS jammers imported from China during the ceasefire rendered Congo's drone fleet, previously a game changer, largely ineffective. Such deception is not just cynical, it is a flagrant abuse of trust. Rwanda's internal repression has grown in tandem with its external aggression. Families of fallen RDF soldiers are punished for mourning, silenced by a state that sees truth as a threat. Soldiers deployed to Congo call home with trembling voices describing conditions as hopeless, with desertion rates reportedly rising. These are not the actions of a confident popular government. They are the actions of a regime terrified of its people and desperate to maintain power through force. Meanwhile, in eastern Congo, the war continues. The displaced population, already approaching 5 million, continues to grow. Camps are overflowing, resources are strained, and hope is vanishing. When M23 captured Goma and Bukavu in early 2025, they didn't just displace residents, they obliterated the humanitarian infrastructure built over the years. Schools, clinics, and UN shelters were bulldozed. Women and girls, already traumatised, now face sexual violence on a horrifying scale. NBC's reporting highlighted that in just 2 months, January and February 2025, UNICEF recorded over 10,000 cases of rape and sexual violence. Nearly half of the victims were children. This is not collateral damage. This is a campaign of terror. And amid this horror, M23 and RDF forces are consolidating power. Local banks remain shuttered by order of Kinshasa, creating liquidity crises in M23 occupied zones. Armed groups, some formed by escaped prisoners, patrol city centres. Men and boys are forcibly recruited. Families are terrified, cut off from their land, their livelihoods, and any sense of normalcy. International silence has enabled these crimes, but silence is no longer an option. The time has come for the United Nations, the African Union, and Congo's bilateral partners to take a clear and unequivocal stand. Sanctions alone are not enough. There must be legal consequences for Kagame's war crimes. International tribunals must be prepared, and Rwanda's proxy war in the DRC must be recognised for what it is, an illegal invasion. There is also a vital question of mineral accountability. Any peace deal, especially one being brokered by the Trump administration and Masad Boulos, must be transparent, Congolese-led and anchored in justice. US access to Congo's minerals must not come at the price of Congolese sovereignty or human rights. Tshisekedi must insist that the DRC is not a bargaining chip. It is a sovereign nation. Boulos has floated the idea of Rwanda and Congo jointly benefiting from US investment in the region. But what trust can there be when one party is the invader? Rwanda's withdrawal must not be optional. It must be a precondition. The world must not forget that Kagame's regime has refused even symbolic acts of accountability, such as attending peace summits or acknowledging M23's atrocities. His reaction to Western sanctions was one of contempt rather than contrition. Go to hell, he said, a response unfit for any leader claiming to support peace. Despite all this, there is still hope. NBC reports that in March 2025, M23 forces withdrew from Walikale, marking their first retreat in over 3 years. This was not a coincidence. It followed unprecedented sanctions from former Kagame allies, as well as increasing diplomatic isolation. The message is clear: pressure works. But it must be sustained. The Congolese people are not helpless. Under Tshisekedi, they have demonstrated resilience, patriotism and clarity. FARDC's new leadership, combined with the fierce defence mounted by Wazalendo and the intelligence gathered through international contractors, has dealt Kagame severe blows. But the cost has been immense. Congo is fighting not just for territory, but for its soul. In this fight, Burundi has emerged as a crucial ally. Unlike Uganda and Kenya, which often dance between neutrality and complicity, Burundi has stood firmly with the Congolese people. President Ndayishimiye has refused to be swayed by Kagame's regional influence, offering moral and diplomatic support to Kinshasa in a time of need. This alignment must be deepened. A strong DRC-Burundi alliance can serve as a cornerstone of regional stability, a counterweight to Rwandan aggression. However, alliances alone will not bring about peace. The FARDC must evolve into a modern, professional and unified army. The days of tribal divisions, command corruption and political interference must come to an end. Congo's youth must be trained, equipped and inspired to defend their homeland. And traitors within the state apparatus must be rooted out without mercy. This is not a time for appeasement. It is a time for determination. Tshisekedi understands this. His administration's decision to hire international contractors and invest in drone technology was bold and necessary. Similarly, his outreach extended to the United Nations, the African Union, and bilateral partners. But more must be done. The Congolese diaspora must be mobilized. Regional media must be utilized to counter Kagame's propaganda. And the people themselves, those in refugee camps in Goma, Bukavu and Beni, must be assured that they are not forgotten. Kagame may control his media, he may censor funerals and manipulate public discourse, but he cannot hide the truth forever. NBC News and Mikola Wrong have already exposed the first layer. More revelations will follow. More voices will rise. The DRC stands at a crossroads. One path leads to deeper conflict, betrayal and national exhaustion. The other leads to rebirth, a Congo that is sovereign, secure and respected. But that second path requires resolve. It requires unity. And it involves the rejection of old narratives. Kagame is not a peacekeeper. Kabila was not a liberator, and M23 is not a grassroots movement. These are lies that must be buried in the past. As this video draws to a close, let us remember the power of truth. Let us honour the courage of those who speak out, from Congolese refugees to former RDF soldiers to whistleblowers inside Kigali. Let us recognise the bravery of Mikola Wrong and NBC News, who dared to speak out against what others feared. That Rwanda's secret war was no longer a secret. It is time for the world to make a choice. Stand with the people of Congo, stand with President Tshisekedi, stand with the FARDC and the Wazalendo defenders, and send a clear message to Kagame. The age of impunity is over.
Quickly like the soldier. Quickly. Don't joke. Move. Quickly. Quickly like the soldier.
This footage from earlier this year shows a stunning military upset in the Democratic Republic of Congo. These men are well-trained foreign military contractors hired by the Congolese government. Surrounded by news cameras, they're being rounded up and kicked out of the country by the rebel group known as M23, seen here in uniform. M23 claims to be a grassroots rebellion fighting the government to secure the rights of Eastern Congo's Tutsi ethnic minority. In early 2025, they shocked the world by capturing eastern Congo's largest cities. But once the cameras stopped rolling, the real power backing M23's surprise advance marched in to occupy the area. These are troops from the tiny neighboring country of Rwanda, identified by intelligence sources who spoke with NBC News. We uncovered evidence showing that Rwanda has armed, trained, and commanded the M23 movement and committed thousands of its own troops to the fight. Their clandestine war has given them control over a territory with some of the world's richest deposits of rare earth minerals used in cell phones, computer chips, and batteries. It's also killed thousands and displaced millions. Despite accusations from the UN and Western governments, Rwandan President Paul Kagame has carefully and repeatedly denied any role in the conflict.
This problem was not created by Rwanda and is not Rwanda's problem. It is Congo's problem. M23 are not Rwandans.
Does Rwanda currently have any troops at all in Eastern DRC?
I don't know.
NBC News exclusively obtained 3 years of confidential intelligence reports and surveillance footage. They were given to us by military contractors hired to provide intelligence for Congolese forces. Using additional incident reports from the Rwanda Defense Forces, or RDF, satellite imagery, and interviews with combatants, we were able to piece together an account of Rwanda's secret. Along the way, there have been cracks in Rwanda's covert war. In May 2022, Congolese forces claimed to have captured 2 Rwandan soldiers on Congolese soil. Rwanda denied this, claiming the soldiers were kidnapped across the border. But NBC obtained the Rwanda Defense Force's internal report on the incident, confirming these soldiers were captured while taking part in an M23 attack on a Congolese military barracks. The report recommends punishment for their commander, who allowed his soldiers to participate in the attack while wearing Rwandan military patches. To preserve secrecy, Rwanda began to equip M23 and their own troops with the same unidentifiable uniforms and gear, making it nearly impossible to tell them apart. To prevent the capture and identification of Rwandan weapon systems, they shuttled them back and forth across the border to Rwanda every night. The RDF removed the bodies of dead Rwandan soldiers from the battlefield, and when they couldn't, they stripped them of ID and insignia. Despite these measures, the mounting death toll is becoming increasingly difficult to hide. Using satellite imagery, we counted one by one the grave sites in this Rwandan military cemetery. Since 2021, the cemetery has grown by more than 900 graves. The largest increase occurred between late 2023 and early 2024. During this period, the Congolese military conducted a wave of drone attacks within their own borders. There were so many Rwandan casualties, they nearly lost the war. This strike from January 2024 took out an RDF base and ammunitions depot near the Congolese village of Kiwanja. The attack killed Rwandan officers who were training M23 recruits. A spokesperson for the government declined to answer our questions about Rwandan casualties, but said our reporting on their military cemetery has, quote, no basis in reality. NBC News spoke with a former member of the Rwandan military who lost friends, mentors, and family members in the conflict. Their funerals, he told us, were strictly monitored and controlled. Fearing retaliation from the government, he spoke to NBC on the condition of anonymity. He provided us with documents and corroborating sources to verify his account. To ensure his anonymity, we're reading from a transcript of his interview.
I have a family member. He's my cousin. He called me. He said the enemy is very dangerous here. He said we are very afraid. And he was shaking. You know, the voice was shaking. He died on December 31st, 2024. They bring you to the cemetery, they show you the coffin, then they bury, then you go home. After that, they follow up with the families, their conversations, if they're sharing what happened to them. They're supposed to stay silent.
For many Rwandans, grief is more powerful than fear. NBC News found and verified 91 examples of Rwandan families who defied authorities by posting funeral notices of relatives who died in eastern Congo.
When someone is dead, sometimes you have nothing left to fear. They have nothing to lose.
Nearly 4 years of conflict have taken their greatest toll on Congolese civilians. Millions have been forced to flee their homes to escape the fighting, often over and over again. And Rwandan attempts to hide their presence is only making matters worse. A leaked report from January 2024 shows how the RDF and M23 established this small fortified position, then kicked out the entire nearby village to maintain secrecy. Over the course of the war, many of the displaced found shelter in refugee camps around Goma, the region's largest city. But Goma is now occupied by M23 and Rwandan forces, and many are being displaced yet again. Satellite images show thousands of tents and temporary structures in one of these camps being completely dismantled. Western governments have known about Rwanda's involvement and have said so publicly. But still, Rwanda continues to receive international aid, and that includes military funding for its UN peacekeeping missions. Now Rwanda is at the table for US-brokered peace talks, despite never having officially admitted to taking part in the conflict.
It will also allow millions of displaced people to return to their homes, to safer communities, with new economic opportunities.
The U.S. is promising speedy investment into eastern Congo's supplies of rare earth minerals. It's an attractive offer for President Kagame. Under the proposed deal, Rwanda would profit from this mineral investment and exit the conflict without accountability for its secret war.